You will be killed. This is November 24th. Emily Austin faced death threats after a heated debate with Palestinian activist Nerdeen Kiswani over the Gaza conflict. Kiswani, leader of Within Our Lifetime, United for Palestine, expressed support for violence against Israel and called for the vilification and expulsion of Zionists. Austin described Kiswani's confrontational behavior during the debate, highlighting how Kiswani posted a picture of her with a red arrow over my head on Instagram and encouraged putting a bounty on my head. Austin received death threats such as "I'll kill you and you will be killed in the next few days." So tell us about this experience.
To be polite, Nerdeen is one of the most disgusting, vile people that walks this earth. And I'm disgusted that New York is not taking action against her borderline terrorism going around the city. For context, Within Our Lifetime is shortened for Destroy Israel Within Our Lifetime, and that's their goal. And it's not just Israel. It's anyone who believes that Israel has a right to exist. So now you are inciting violence upon anyone who believes Israel has the right to exist, which is most Jews and a lot of non-Jews too. So with that being said, on our debate, I came with the facts. She came with emotional screaming. If I were her, I'd leave humiliated too. And her and her vile group of Zionist destructors were posting like, target this company, target Puma, target this. And she made a map of places to target. And she put a photo of myself and Pierce with red targets over her head. And she said, don't forget like these two. Or then she said later it was a joke. But I had congressmen and councilwomen and New York executives messaging me, this is not a joke. Like, I'll help you report it to the FBI. And I want to just really, really, really shout out the FBI. I've called them at 6 in the morning. I've called at 1 in the morning. And they've always been available at every hour to check the credibility of these threats. So some they'll be like, hey, this guy's in Saudi Arabia, don't worry. Then he's like, all right, this girl's in Staten Island. We're going to check it out for you. So, you know, initially I wasn't even afraid. I'm like, everyone's a keyboard warrior. Everyone has something to say behind the screen and nobody does something in front of it. But who wants to find out, you know? So, of course, I hired private security and I'm like, I'm going into Manhattan. This woman, Nerdeen, this monster is terrorizing the city. And now my face is so out there because of her. Why should I take a chance when I see these people are burning trees, punching each other, hitting policemen? They are hitting policemen. What do you think they're going to do to me? So I just wanted to take the safer route and hire security.
Emily, where do you draw the line on free speech? Obviously, we're a fan of what Elon Musk has done with X, Twitter, and I'm sort of a free speech absolutist. I'm Jewish, but I've heard some vile shit about me and just about Jews in general. And, but there's been no death threats, so there's been no attacks. So I'm the type of person that's like, all right, cool, thanks, buddy. I'll go fuck myself.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this between free speech, hate speech, and actual, calls for active violence? How do you distinguish between all those?
Yeah, well, those are distinguishable. I mean, free speech, I'm a free speech absolutist too. In fact, like, I don't like most things that I hear on a daily basis, but I can't start censoring things I disagree with. Like, we'll get into the Trump ballots. So you could say the most vile things about Jews. Everyone's like, Hitler was right. Hitler should have finished the job. But if you start to even incite that you are going to take an action, like, I will finish Hitler's job, that's already actionable. That's already inciting violence. And that's where I draw the line. But free speech, you can say whatever you want. And by the way, saying whatever you want doesn't mean there's no consequences. If you're calling for Jewish genocide on college campuses, there should be a consequence. The same way if I misgender someone on college campuses, I know there'll be consequences. I mean, I laughed at my classmate who identified as a cat because that's funny, and I got in trouble. But if she said from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free of Jewish people, she would be fine. So
why do you think there's such a double standard? Exactly. You just use why do you think there's such a double standard whether it's fat phobia, gender phobia, transphobia, all that? You don't offend anybody, but
taking it back to this guy.
If you call for,
I think it's because the Jewish people don't live in the victim mentality. Back to his point, Jewish people don't like. I mean, I'm not speaking on behalf of the Jewish people, but I'm assuming nobody should want to live in the victim mentality. Listen, the Jews went through the Holocaust. Throughout time and time again, the Jews are constantly being persecuted, and they always prevail, whatever the reason is. And the Holocaust was not even 100 years ago, and Jews are never looked at as the victims. And I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that. But when it comes to like instances like these that we're seeing in present times, I've never seen an extent of anti-Semitism this bad. But now it's like, I don't know if we're not vocal enough. I don't know if we're not causing enough outrage. I mean, we're not ransacking stores and burning down stores and
You mean Jews
inciting
aren't beheading people?
No, we're not.
Oh,
We're
okay.
not. We're not causing global like violence. We're not doing that, and that's not the right answer. But I think because we're not doing what other communities do, maybe they're not taking it as seriously. I mean, the fact that President Gay is still at Harvard is mind-boggling.
I was just going to ask you, did everybody else get kicked? Did MIT got fired?
Penn.
No,
Penn
she's
is
still there.
Penn is
Just
the only
Penn.
one.
MIT is pending.
Just
they,
Penn.
they
So-
claim that there's an internal review, but nothing else has been said.
Probably
nothing.
everyone's already said it. Just
Wait it out.
imagine she said that calling genocide on black people was okay. Imagine someone said that and they stood by idly and allowed that to happen. I wouldn't let that happen. Like
Right.
nobody should. If you're a human being, there shouldn't be double standards. But with the Jews, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Well, and there's actually something good coming at the end of this, and it's happening at Penn and Wharton. Wharton, what most people don't know is underneath the surface at Wharton, it's fairly moderate, like one tick over to conservative, because that's the way they feel about capitalism, about taxation.
it's a business
free
school,
enterprise.
Penn.
Well, but it's a business school, but it also is an economic engine that's paying a lot of bills for the rest of the school. Rob, if you could go to www.pennforward.com, they apparently are up to 400 faculty that have signed this Penn Forward. This is a framework to guide the university. Scroll up and let's just read the first. Mission is, keep going. Intellectual diversity, civil discourse, political neutrality of the administration, institutional neutrality, and the university must remain neutral to scientific, respect and tolerance for who you are. And then you go to the bottom, and the number of people that have now publicly signed this is massive. It's massive. And this is employees, tenured professors,
Wow.
and people at Penn. So this is causing a good thing. There's a groundswelling of people that says,
Fantastic.
we're not afraid to speak up, but we're not just going to say, oh, you're liberal, you're crazy. What they're saying is, here's the framework that we think should embody an open, neutral center of education, at higher education. And so they're putting this forward. And guess what? The administration's having a hard time with this because the first shoe is dropped. They moved the president out. Yes, they moved her back to her law position, but they moved the president out. And so I think this is actually a good thing that's forcing them at the administrative level. Now, will the change come all the way down for students everywhere and Jewish students that are sitting there saying, my university president doesn't believe that these threats against me are bad? Am I comfortable walking across the quad without security at 9 o'clock at night after going to the research library? Students shouldn't be thinking about that, but those university presidents that were there did. Second point, to your question, the price of free speech is free speech, but the U.S. Civil Code, Section 2101, which has been absolutely unenforced, and you can find literally 1,000 articles about this, says that inciting a riot is a crime. It's the highest level misdemeanor crime. In other words, almost a felony. Like, remember when they turned misdemeanors into low-level penalties on Trump in New York City? Yeah. Well, this is the highest level misdemeanor, and it says acts of organizing, promoting, encouraging, or participating in a riot. Advocating a position or belief in speech or writing without inciting violence is not a crime. So the price of free speech is free speech. You're going to hear things you don't like. But
You heard that, Mayor Adams?
But this is, that's right. But this has been completely unenforced. And you have lawyers and civil rights lawyers, liberal lawyers across the U.S. saying, you know what? Cities are just choosing not to enforce this because there is out there, Adam, when you cross over and you incite a riot, the U.S. Criminal Code, Section 2101, is completely clear. But it said it's been horribly unenforced from sea to shining sea. And this is where you can jump in about Soros-funded district attorneys who just don't want to enforce it. And by the way, you'd be right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's doing.
Tee it up, Vinny.
No, I'm just saying Soros is obviously.
That was actually a very good breakdown,
That was
Tom,
great, Tom.
on what you said. The question is, if that's really out there and lawyers know
it
it,
is.
why are lawyers not using this to hold people accountable?
Property owner lawyers are trying to, Pat. They're trying to come to the DA and say, these people incited a riot and they destroyed my shop. It's $5,000 deductible for me, and my insurance company's writing a
How
check.
come it's not a story that we know about? How come it's not a story that's being talked about?
Because
Make it known.
Why would the mainstream media put the narrative in there? These people have the right to demonstrate.
No, but Tom, if let's just say let's just say a group of lawyers are doing this, and they're making this public so other people know about it, that would be something people on the other side would be writing about. So I don't think they're doing enough for people to be taking notice. So if you're a lawyer and you know this exists and it's happening in your city, And if you're not a lawyer, go to lawyers and ask and say, "How come? What are we doing about this?"
And the insurance companies writing checks, where are they?
Well, insurance companies are worried about being, because it takes a position if they do go out there and do that. Now you're defending a side.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.